Welcome to Rejuvenate Church Broadcast. We exist to create an environment where people can engage the hope of Jesus Christ, connecting people to their dreams and purpose in life, teaching transformational kingdom principles that allow that purpose to be lived out. Visit us on the web at www.rejuvenatechurch.com. You may also connect with us via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Stay tuned at the close of today's message for more information about Rejuvenate. Let's join Pastor Jason Wilson now for today's message.
Last week I told you that love is much different than what we anticipate it to be. We tend to think that love is shaped around feelings and emotions and just our ideas, and we've even taught people that love is a choice, and all of those are wrong. Love is a law. Love is a law. It's the law that the Bible says that every other law hangs on. And the reality is that the whole reason that we get, for instance, Jesus Christ on a cross is because the law had been established before time had ever begun. Love literally is what everything was birthed out of. And so the law of love had to be established in order for God to respond in order. See, God is a God of order. God is a God of law. God is a God of justice. This whole kingdom thing is not just, it's not just Fruit Loops and lollipops. It's judicial. It's governmental. It has constitution. It literally is order and has rule and it has reign. And literally his whole heart and his whole idea is that I'm this king and I have this desire to share my kingdom and my authority and my power, but I have nobody to share it to, and so I'm creating this law of love. That through that love, I can begin to expand my kingdom and create people. It was love that desired companionship. It was love that said, I want to share who I am. I want to share what I have. I want to share what I've got. I want to share my authority and my power and my territory. And so he set the law of love in motion before the universe really was even spoken into existence, because everything responds to love. And so love is a law. So we teach, okay, it's not a feeling, and it's not even a choice, even though we say that. Choice is a response to the law. You still have a decision not to respond to the law of love. Are you following me right now? God even set that up and said, here's the thing, is that I'm not even going to force you into relationship with me. It's my love alone that will build you, but I'm giving you a choice. All right, I'm giving you the ability that you can respond to the law or you can disregard the law. And if you disregard the law, there will be consequences. But if you respond, there will be a kingdom that will set up inside of you. Right? And so he said, I've got this law of love and I'm giving you an option to respond to it. And you cannot respond to it emotionally. And you cannot respond to it just through circumstance. And you cannot respond to it through feeling. You have to respond to it through submission of will. A response to the law says, here's the thing, is I think I set it up like this last week. Sometimes we have these speed limit signs. And those speed limit signs, regardless if you're late for work, regardless if you're in an emergency, regardless if you're frustrated with your boyfriend, regardless of whatever it may be, man, you may just have a desire to want to drive fast. Regardless of how you feel, that law, that speed limit sign will not be moved. It is who it is, and it's bound by itself. It's not bound to the fact that you may feel one way on Monday and another way on Thursday when you pass it. And so you have a responsibility to respond to the law, not based on how you feel. I don't feel like stopping for that yellow sign, that yellow light today. I want to run it. Well, the law is the law. Now you're going to pay a price if you make a decision not to operate. If you don't submit your will to the will of the law, you're going to pay a price. Are you following me? You leave yourself out there for risk. All right, and so we have to have an understanding then that love is a law. Love is a law. Now, when you begin to understand that love is a law, you realize then and this is what I'm titling today. There's a difference then. We enter into relationships with God, with people, from a contractual mindset. God entered this thing into a covenant mindset. Now, you can even go and study the word covenant within Bible or Bible dictionaries, and it will even tell you that it's a contract, and it is not. Covenant and contract are two different things. All right? It's two different things. And our kingdom responds by a covenant, not a contract. All right? You ain't got to answer this because I'll get a lot of you in trouble. But have you ever got into your relationship or your marriage or your job or whatever it may be? You're in a relationship with somebody and you walk away thinking this wasn't what I expected. Well, I got married and now it's been a year and well, this ain't what I expected. She jacked up. I mean, wow. It wasn't what I expected at all. Like she was looking fine coming down that aisle. And I woke up this morning and boy, that wasn't what I expected. You follow me? Come on, some of y'all said, hey, you said it to your boys, you said it to your girls, you may even walked away and you got in the car when nobody was there and started screaming and was like, this wasn't what I expected. I want to kill this man. Now listen to me, because I'm about to throw you for a curve right now. All right? Let me tell you something. If that's been your response, you went into it with the wrong mind. You went into this thing. You have a business mind. You have a business mind. And you went into this thing contractually obligated rather than understand having a kingdom mind with covenant in the process. And because now you have been contractually minded, you have the ability to place expectations on something. And when you place expectations on something, generally you set yourself up for disappointment. But a contract, here's what it says. A contract becomes a fee for service that says, I'm going to give you something that in return, you give me something back. Or you give me something and then in return, when you give it to me, then I'll respond and I'll give it back to you. Now, here's the thing is that God said, I don't work that way. I'm a great businessman. I believe in the stewardship of my resources, but I didn't build you with the stewardship of my resources. I built you out of covenant love. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. This love thing and this marriage thing and how you select this process and how you respond to it so applies to your purpose. And I'm going to deal with that next week. But God says, I want to expand my kingdom, okay? I'm going to expand and I'm going to share my love and show my love by creating these individuals. And then I'm going to give them everything they need to be successful. Whether they decide to choose me in return or not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come on now. Process that for a minute. He says, I'm not entering into a contract with you that if I build you, you will give me something back. That is the desire. That's what I'm setting this thing up, that when I give you what you need, that your response to that law gives something back, and really it becomes the best thing possible for both of us. But I don't give to you out of expectation. I give to you out of love. Love and expectation cannot cohabitate. Man, you need to mark that down, write it down, paint it, tattoo it on your arm, whatever. Love and expectation cannot cohabitate because expectation is a business mind. Covenant is kingdom. It is judicial. Matter of fact, covenant is law. Right? The covenant, here's what a covenant is: an agreement by the covenant to the covenantee that I will either perform or refrain from a service, and that's where it stops. Not I will perform a service or refrain from a service. If you do this, it literally stops at the I will perform or I will refrain. The covenantee is always the recipient without ever having to have a mindset that I must give back. Are you following me right now? Now, I know this is going to challenge some of you guys, man, but I'm teaching you something right now that will transform your life. All right? And so God built this thing from a judicial system, a judicial term. Covenant is a judicial term that means a promise to engage in or refrain from a specified action. Covenant is law and love is a law. And so you see where covenant and love are equal. All right? If you look at the old covenant and the new covenant, both of them are what God would do for man without expectation of what man would do in return. God set up law to create the opportunity for you to respond to that law, but he did not expect you to respond to that law for him to first give who he was. Matter of fact, God loved you so much and was bound to a covenant that he said, I'm going to give to you before you even have a thought in your head. I'm going to give to you before you have breath in your body. I'm going to give and I'm going to build you. I'm already giving to you plans for your life and you still inside your mother's womb. I'm already giving you opportunities that you don't even see yet because you don't even have a heartbeat yet. You don't even have a spirit living inside of you. You're not yet formed, and yet I'm already giving you. I already see your future because I've been in it. I've prepared it. I've set it up for your success. Whether you respond to me or not, I've been in your future and set up because I love you. Whether you ever respond to me or not. And then he said, okay, now I'll give you birth. And when man responded out of a contractual mind and said, I'm going to disobey the law that you've set up, God said, well, here's what I'm going to do. Michael, 2,000 years before you even knew you was going to transgress the law, I have already given a redemption plan. I didn't ask for anything back, but I prepared my son to enter into your world to make sure you were taken care of without you ever even responding to me the first time. Because I'm bound by my law, not by your emotions. Watch. He says, I'm bound by my law, not even my emotions. Because God, I promise you, gets angry and frustrated at who you are and how you respond and how you operate. And you can see throughout Scripture where he was burning and wanted to kill people. And because somebody stood in the gap and said, just remember your love for them. Just remember the law that you set up to protect your people. Let me give you a little tidbit right here. Watch. Listen. Love is a response to value. All right? I'm going to give you my closing in the beginning. Love is a response to value. God set the law up to protect the value that he created. Now follow me for a minute. Here's the thing is that we must then respond to the value, not that we have determined because it's protected by law, but by the value that he determined. See, he determined your value before anybody else ever had access to you. He determined what you cost and what you were valued at before anybody had a chance to lay their finger on you. And then once he determined your value, that he said, I'm willing to give it all. I was willing to give it all in the beginning to share with you. And then I was willing to give it all in the end to make sure that you were covered by your sins. I was willing to give it all. And that's what your value is to me, is that you're priceless. And so I'm going to make sure then that your value is protected because I'm going to set up your value protected by a covenant or by a law. And so people then can't respond by the value they place on you. They have to respond to the law. The law that has been established to protect your value. Come on, y'all getting something out of this right now? I ain't even gotten to the marriage stuff yet. And so God says, listen, man, it's a response to, I can get in marriage counseling sometimes with folks, and I'll sit there and ask them, I'm like, you know, in your mind, come up with a number that you know, you feel like your spouse is worth. And then I will ask them, hey, now come up with the number of the value of the level that you treat them at. And there has never been a time that it has matched. Never. There's never been a time that I've seen in a counseling session that the number of how they respond to their spouse versus the number of the value, the monetary value they place on their spouse was ever the same. They always come up short. Matter of fact, not usually it's not even close. It's like somebody will say like, she's worth like $5 million and I'm treating her like $5. And then you see then where you trying to have a kingdom marriage on a yard sale price.
Wow.
I'm going to drop the mic and leave on that one right there, right? You trying to have a kingdom marriage and you have determined that you're going to serve this thing with a yard sale price. And it's impossible then to it. It's just like women, you can't go looking for a diamond in a trash can. Right? You can't go looking for a diamond in a trash can. Men, you can't do the same thing. You can't go expect a Proverbs 31 woman and you throwing dollar bills at her on a stage somewhere. You follow me? Well, anyway, y'all wasn't ready for that one. So watch. All right, here we go. So let's get back to this covenant thing. All right. The covenant then binds you to the law, and it's one-sided. It is not business driven. It is not contractually driven. All right? Doesn't happen that way. We like to operate by contract because that's the condition that's been created around us for our culture, is that our culture operates from a business mindset or a contractual opportunity. You don't get anything for free in this world. Are you following me? You don't get nothing for free. And that's the way the world trains us, is that we don't get nothing for free. And so in order for you to get, you have to give. And that's how we become conditioned in our thinking, and then we try to take a natural operation and apply it to the kingdom, and it don't match up. And then we wonder why we enter into something like a relationship that is seeded by the kingdom, and yet it don't work out because we apply natural principles to it. So we have to learn to respond into a covenant, which becomes one-sided. It's a law, and it doesn't move based on scenarios or people. It's bound to itself and not by contractual obligations. All right? Marriage covenant is a law, and we treat it contractually. See, in marriage, you're bound first. Listen, we believe that we're bound first to the individual. And so because we are bound to the individual, that's what we respond to. And when she's having a bad day, I have a bad day. And when he's jacked up, I'm jacked up. And because we believe that we're first responding to the individual, that's how we respond, and that's how we treat the whole relationship. But then when you change your mindset and realize that this thing is about a covenant, and it's about a covenant law that was not established by your spouse, it was established by the king. Your spouse's value was established by the king, and so I'm no longer responding first to the person that I'm married to. I'm responding to the law that the king created. And so my first response to love in a relationship is not to the individual I see, because God was protecting that. God knew you would have clouded vision, and when you looked on that woman or you looked on that man, sometimes they would get under your skin, and he knew, being an emotional character, that you would respond by what you see rather than what you know and you're submitted to. And so my first response in a relationship is not to the individual that I see, but it's to the covenant of the king. I'm bound by law to treat them with love. I'm bound by law. Listen, that means I don't have an option how I apply myself in this marriage. I don't have an option how I treat you in this engagement. I don't have an option. Now watch, here's the thing, is that we believe, because we're contractually set up, that we do have options. All right? We believe that we have options. The moment that you believe you have options inside of a covenant, you have literally just destroyed the covenant. All right? There are no, here's the thing. We live in a monarchy. There ain't no options. It's the king, and that's it. You with me? Come on now. Talk back to me. Listen, it's him, and that's it. We don't vote. All right? We ain't voting a new king in. November, we're going to be voting a new president. That's because we live in a democracy. We don't live, if you have accepted the blood payment of Jesus Christ, you don't live in a democracy. You live in a kingdom. And so your thinking has to change. And so I no longer respond to my options. I respond to the king. All right? And so when I respond to the king, now I've got to respond to this covenant that I've entered into, and I have to remove the contractual mindset that I've had. All right? So he says, listen, you're bound by the law. You've made a covenant, and you will sacrifice your will for God's. We generally, again, only make decisions, respond based on the person, but we have to respond to God. This is why, watch, I'm going to get into this next week, man. This is why the selection process and who you marry is so important. Because, watch. We go into it thinking, well, how can they make me better? How can I change them for the good of the relationship? How can I do this with them? And the reality is you better make a decision. That's the person that I can show just merciful love and just admonishment and just throw myself to out of covenant love without anything in return for the rest of my life. That's the person I can give myself completely to, not the person that I'm expecting something back from. Do you see why the selection process then becomes so challenging? Because we have literally began this whole thing with just a wrong mindset, and now we wonder why our divorce rates is at 50%. Worse in the church than it is in the world. All right? Because I didn't choose this person based on the fact that I could give myself to them wholly and turn around and walk away and not expect nothing in return. Because my obligation in a covenant is that I throw myself at you. Did I throw myself at just in loving you and supporting you and lifting you up and encouraging you? And yes, there will be days that you will tick me off and I will still stand there and look you in the eye and may be mad and frustrated, but because I'm bound by the law, I will not be moved by it. I will not pack my bags and head to mama's house. I'll stand right here and stare you in the face and let you know today I don't feel like loving you, but that ain't what I operate by. I operate by the kingdom law of covenant that I love you anyway. And I made a decision out of covenant that I will apply myself to you wholeheartedly and nothing back. Now, have you made your decisions about who you're going to marry that way? This is the person that I can give myself 100% to. And that's it. No, because we entered into this thing thinking, well, she could probably do this for me and her family got money and I could probably start my business because her family's got money, or I enter in because she's 36, 24, 36 and man, she's fine. And listen, you follow me? And then she has a kid and 36, 24, 36 becomes something just totally abstract that they don't work on in a math scale somewhere. And because you condition the entrance of that relationship based on her body, now your love is built upon that condition. And when that condition changes, because that's what your love was founded on, your love changes. That's you operating by eros. That's the eros love. That's erotic love. Right? And then we get into this phileo or this storge love that I talked about last week, where you expect something in return, that you scratch their back and they'll scratch yours. And that's that brotherly love or that affectionate type thing. Like, as long as you on my good side, then we cool. As long as you taking care of me, then we're good. And when that's the relationship or the love that I've built my relationship around, when they go crazy and stupid and have their psychotic breakdown on a Tuesday morning trying to get ready for work, you start to move out the way rather than standing there and looking them in the eye and say, I was bound here by my covenant, not by my phileo, not by my storage, not by the way I feel, not by my affection. Because I ain't been hugged in 34 days, you know what? I'm still here anyway. I didn't expect you to hug me and love me in that way when we got into the marriage. I expected myself to give to you. I didn't expect sex this many times a week. And if you don't give it to me this many times a week, then the relationship is over. Come on, there's a pin drop right now. Because you've based the whole relationship out of condition. Out of condition. God says the selection process is so important because you're bound in your marriage first to me and to the law. Not to people, not to the conditions, not to the circumstances, whatever it may be, you're bound to the law. And then we don't like when the conditions change, and so we determine, well, because the conditions change, this is our mindset, our business mindset. Well, apparently, because the conditions changed, then that violates the contract, and now I can move. Because the conditions shifted, it violated my contract, and I can move. But here's the thing, you weren't bound by a business contract, because contracts can be broken. Contracts have clauses in them. Are you following me? Watch, let me show you something real quick. Let me show you. Contracts have clauses and amendments. Right here in 13:4 verse 8, you know what he does? He removes all the clauses. He says, you trying to enter into this thing from a business mindset, contractually, having clauses that if she don't do this, you're out. That if she don't love you this way, you're out. That if he don't do this, if he don't take care, if he don't make this much money, if he don't act like your daddy, whatever it may be, if he don't do this, then you're out. And here's what God does. God says, let me give you a reminder that I didn't build this thing based on a contract. I built it based on a covenant. And when you start working in your business mind and thinking of all these clauses and amendments, I'm going to just take all the clauses out. Yeah. That's what he did. He said, love suffers long and is kind. So when you get fed up, you're still there. Amen. You with me? Yes. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. Here's the thing. This one right here, to me, I don't know. They should have bolded this one. It does not parade itself, and it is not puffed up. What this says, this really just sums up the rest of them. This says, don't be looking out for you. Yeah. That's what it says. Don't look out for you. All right? Because if you entered into this thing in the right way, you weren't looking out for you to begin with. You were looking out for them. Because you had made an agreement that I will apply myself wholeheartedly to them without anything in return. And so I can't look for my gratification. I can't look for sex this many times a week to make me feel good. To hold me to the relationship, because I ain't entering into something that parades myself and's puffed up. This thing ain't got nothing to do with me. All right? It says it does not behave rudely. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked. It is not provoked. It is not. Regardless of how many times she cusses you out, you got to stand there and love her anyway. It thinks no evil. That means it ain't plotting how you working out to get rid of her. You ain't premeditating the cancellation of your contract. It does not rejoice in iniquity. We get into this competition thing in marriage that when your spouse screws up, it makes you excited because you feel like you won up. I'm serious. Somebody tell me you ain't played competition with your spouse before. In your mind. Now, not necessarily out, but in your mind, you're keeping score. And so when they screw up, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I can hold this one over their head now. Yeah, I got one. I got one on the board. They owe me one now. They owe me now. I'm one up. Mine has been pushed to the side. Now I'm one up in the process, and I can hold this against them and get whatever I want out of this thing because I got something to hold over their head because I'm celebrating their screw up. Yeah. It does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. You know what the truth is? I'm bound to a covenant. Amen. It bears all things. It believes in all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. And because of that, love, the covenant, does never fail. Because the covenant can't be moved. Amen. It's not contractually obligated. There is no clauses in the covenant. It says it bears, it hopes, it believes, it endures all things. There is no amendment in there that says, well, if she does this, you can cancel the whole thing. He said, nope, all things. And I'm writing this before you even got breath in your body, so you ain't even got a choice in the matter. Amen. And because of this, love never fails. Now, we get into this contractual thing. You know what frustrates me is that we will honor our natural law more than we will the kingdom law. Yeah. You with me? We believe in this whole contractual process, and so we believe that if something transgresses the contraction, I can literally break that contract. But the reality is when I've made a decision to break that contract, regardless of what happens, when I break that contract and I enter into a separation, I enter into another option, I walk out the door, whatever it may be, when I decide I'm going to break that contract, I literally have not violated a contract, I have violated a law. Now, what if we applied the consequences of breaking natural law to the consequences of breaking spiritual law? See, we don't equate it this way because if we don't see immediate response or immediate consequence, then we put it out of our mind and think we're free and clear. That's right. But God says, I see all things. There ain't nothing you can hide from me. Everything that's hidden in the dark, I'll bring to the light. That's right. He says, so even the times that you've broken the law and thought you got away with it because you were in a contract instead of a covenant, yes, you're going to pay for that one too. And follow me for a minute. What if we applied the same sentence in a natural sense that murder carries if we decided we were going to end our marriage? How great of a divorce rate, the divorce rate would greatly decrease because of the consequence involved. The reality is that consequence, God don't move because of you. God's law don't move because of a natural law. And we apply more attention to a natural law than we do a spiritual law. And what we have to have an understanding of is that everything that we do in the natural has a spiritual connection to it. Everything. Everything I do here, man, it literally binds or releases something in the spirit. And so when I make a decision not to respond in covenant, but I do it out of contract, you literally don't even have an idea what you've just disrupted in the spirit realm. All right? No idea. Here's my problem is that this is what we're conditioned by, is that we live in this society, in this contractual society that does not believe in a covenant situation. They do not believe in a covenant law. And I promise you, they do not care about your marriage. Or if they did, they would put more emphasis on training you for your marriage than they do your driver's license. But you can walk into a place, into a court somewhere to apply for your marriage license and get them within a matter of minutes. But it will take you now classes. It will take you dollar bills. It will take you your time. It will take you hours of training. You'll have to get in a car with somebody that will tell you yes and no before they will snap your picture and give you the ability to drive. Now that lets me know they care more about your car than they do your marriage. And that's the mindset that we follow. Because I can enter in and get my marriage license in a matter of minutes. It can only take a matter of minutes for me to leave my marriage license behind. He says, but the kingdom don't operate that way. That's why I never established a marriage license. God never instituted a ring on a finger. God never set up the church and said, come and that ain't what he did. Because it's literally not a contract obligation. It's a covenant. He just made a decision that says, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. That's it. I'll serve you for the rest of my life. Regardless of who you are, what you do, where you come from. Here's the thing, is I realize there are some situations that can really get out of hand. And a lot of times that's because we really didn't evaluate our selection process well enough in the beginning. You follow me? I'm telling you, I'm going to get into this next week, man. But there is not a marriage issue, relationship issue, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. There is not a relationship issue that cannot be fixed with information. Everything in the kingdom is about information. The enemy will operate in deception and in the dark places of your mind that you are ignorant in order to take over your life. In the places you don't have revelation is where the enemy operates. And so in the same way in your relationships, man, he will operate in your ignorance. And if you can get information about your situation and respond to that information by covenant law, man, I tell you, you can fix everything. But we'll test drive a car for weeks and never go buy a book that will teach us how to test our marriage. Are you y'all follow me right now, man? Ah, Jesus. Let me ask you this. I'm going to give you a foolproof test right here how you can tell when somebody loves you with covenant or contract. You can ask this question. Why do you love me? And if they answer you, I'm not going to tell you if they answer you with this. I'm going to tell you if they answer you, then you have just found the reason of the very thing that will destroy the marriage. Because when they tell you why they love you, they have just released the clauses in the contract. Because that's the very thing that relationship was founded on. And if that's ever broken, it's the very thing that gives me release to walk out. Why do you love me? Well, because his humor was just so incredible. And when he goes through 4 years of depression and that humor ain't there no more, guess who's out the door? Come on now, you follow me? Well, because, she was fine. She was fine. She ain't gonna be fine like that all of her life. I'm just telling you. Watch. What? Let me show you something about this one. Well, let me show you something about this one in particular. Watch. Listen. Our remote. Come on now. I'm just telling you the truth. He ain't gonna be fine the rest of his life either. That washboard that you found out and saw in the gym, I promise you, it's gonna get out to here. Listen, man, I was the most athletic thing in the world. I worked out all the time. I played football 18 years, and I promise you, I don't look nothing like I did when I was playing ball. I don't look nothing like I did when my wife found me. I'm a sorry picture of what I was. I'm just telling you. Just telling you. But listen, watch. Let me show you something about this in particular. About this eros response. About this thing that makes your we're drawn initially by attraction. That's what draws us in. And I promise you something, man. God created beautiful people, man. God made everybody beautiful because he determined their value. All right, but we have been conditioned by the way that our society sees beauty, and so we're drawn in by it. We're attracted then. All right, we're attracted. And so here's the thing. Let me show you something. And because we're attracted, that drives an emotion. That drives a feeling. When I was in the club, used to be in the club and saw somebody, man, it would look good. It was something that would come over me, and it would just, oh my God, she is fine. And there would be this warmth that would come up inside of you, and you would just, I got to get her number, and you just had these feelings, and I mean, I can't explain. It's just crazy. But then you walk over there and find out she got an attitude, and those feelings just drop just like that. Now watch. Look, I'm about to tell y'all something right here. You better listen. Because that shape or that body or whatever it might be that attracted me, watch, it stirs something inside of you called emotion or feeling. Now listen to me. Emotions or feelings are chemical responses. They are chemical responses. Now listen to this. Chemicals change in your body every 5 seconds. And you're building your relationship off of a chemical response. Now watch for a minute. Watch this. Here she is, and she looks this way, and it moved me. She's fine. It moved me. It got me out of my chair across the building, and I come over to where she's at. Now watch. And because that is what everything was grounded and founded upon. Yeah, I know we spent time and we got to know each other, and I liked her attitude and all that too. But really the thing that sold me was, man, she was fine. Now watch. Men, listen. Because then you start to see the strategy of the enemy in pornography. Listen to me. Listen. I look and I see how she looks and that shape and that what she's wearing and whatever, that color hair, whatever it may be that gets my chemicals turning, that gets that adrenaline built in my body, and I respond to that. Watch. There will be somebody else that will come along that fits that same mold. And now I've entered into a covenant relationship with a contractual mind, and the same thing that drew me to her to begin with, that I built my relationship on, is the same thing now that 5 years later she don't look that way, but now Sally looks like my wife did 5 years ago. And those same adrenaline feelings are building inside of me, and I respond based out of that chemical reaction rather than out of a covenant. And the enemy is shaping that throughout our culture with our men. Putting stuff on a computer and accessible with any smartphone. Because we're driven by a chemical response rather than having an understanding of what covenant is. And it don't make a difference. It don't make a difference what color hair they got, eyes, what they sound like, where they come from. If they fit that same shape, those chemicals begin in my body. And here, let me tell you something. When you don't have an understanding of covenant, you'll always respond to the chemicals. But when you finally have an understanding of covenant, the chemicals will still respond, but you won't move. I'm just teaching you something right now. When you have an understanding of that covenant, man, you can have 18 of them walk by at one time holding hands, all wearing the same thing with the same measurements, and you will be just, but you'll stay right there. I'm not moved by them. I'm not moved by them. I'm bound to my law. My law tells me this is who I give myself to. Come on now, I'm just telling you. I'm not telling you something that I haven't dealt with. Are you feeling me? I didn't have a drug problem. I had a woman problem. I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a woman problem. I'm telling you right now what I'm talking about because I know. All right? And I'm going to stand there. Does she look? Yeah, she looks, but I'm going to stand here because this is my covenant. My wife's had 3 kids. I promise you my wife don't look like she did when we got married. I'm not here to embarrass her by saying that. I don't either. But if I'm moved by that, I miss out on this. And she has given me 3 kids. And she has stood by me in my purpose. And she has believed in the faith that is in me. And she's not been moved, man. In my jacked up mind, when I'm driven by vision, and I've got these certain ways that I'm just driven by, and this mindset that's just focused, and it's like a bull in a china shop. And I'm just not going to be moved by what I see. And she's willing to stand there and take that and believe in that. She's willing to stand in the gap. When I say, baby, I'm leaving my job to pursue a vision, she said, you go right ahead. I'm going to stand right here because I'm in covenant with you. 36, 24, 36 won't do that for me. But she will. She will.
That's all right.
And that's why divorce ain't an option. And that's why separation ain't an option. And that's why when we're ready to go fist with each other, she don't leave and go to mama's house. We deal with it. Are you following me? Because I'm in covenant. I'm not in contract. We broke contracts a long time ago.
Good word. Good word.
I'm in covenant. See, when I enter into this contractual thing, I told you a minute ago, you can ask him, why do you love me? Look, God don't ever tell you in here why he loves you. You can look it up and down. He don't ever tell you why he loves you. He says, for God so loved the world that he did what? That's where it stopped. He gave. He don't say why. He don't say why. Not one time in Genesis chapter 1 when he's starting to talk about creating people did he say why I love you. He said I love you. Not one time when we listen to John 3:16 does he talk about why he's sending his son to die for you, because he loves you. He don't give you a contractual obligation that can be broken. He just says I'm in covenant with you. So why do you love me? Because if you get a response to that, then you learn. You literally get the answer. While they think it's a good thing, you really get your eyes open to what's bad. And when we hear those contract clauses given, let me say this. Those contract clauses are built out of expectations, okay? This is what I expect to get from this person and out of this relationship. Now watch this, watch. Expectations come out of lack. If you ain't lacking nothing, you don't expect nothing. Now we start to get into the identity process of the individual entering into a covenant relationship. That I don't have a need. Watch. When you can tell me what you expect, I can tell you what you lack, and then I can tell you that you ain't where you need to be with him. Because if you're where you need to be with him, I don't have a need. Because my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. I don't expect this because God said that he has an understanding of the lilies of the field and the sparrows and the birds of the air, and that he will clothe me in his righteousness, and I don't have a need. I don't expect this because he came and made himself flesh for me to take on everything, every emotion that I would ever feel, so that he could be the intercession of that emotion. God says, I know everything you need before you ask. And so if my identity is grounded first in him before I even make the selection process, I don't even have an expectation. Come on now, I'm just telling you right now, this is the truth. And so I don't have a reason to produce a clause when God is my everything. See, I know who I am and I have value in my life, and I don't need a woman to make me that. Amen. Women, you need to hear this part. You don't need a man to fill your needs. You don't need a man to complete you. That Jerry Maguire bull crap, that's just what it was. Ain't nobody complete you but God himself. You follow me? You don't need a man to pay your bills. You don't need a man to fix your car. You don't need a man you don't need a man with a great job. You need a man that will be in covenant love for you. And if he's broke as a joke, he'll love you and stand there anyway. You need a man in covenant. But we create these expectations because of lack. Because I'm not who I need to be in the kingdom. Because I'm found in him. He gives me my identity. I'm secure in who I am. I don't have an insecurity. My past doesn't riddle. Here's the problem, is we'll even enter into relationships with expectation based on what we faced in our past. Trying to fill the voids and the holes that were left at what happened at home with daddy 20 years ago, and trying to hold our husband obligation to what daddy didn't do. And the reality is was that painful? Yes, but God is the coverer of the multitude of sins. And so if I can enter into covenant with God and allow him to fill my gaps and my broken places, I won't be expecting for my husband to fulfill something that he don't even have the ability to fulfill. We place expectations in a relationship. Expectations, literally, because I expect something. You are literally asking something of somebody else that they were never built to give. Amen. Because God was to be your supply. And we get frustrated inside of this relationship because I'm constantly expecting this and they're never giving that, and it's driving me insane. And I don't even have a right to expect what I'm expecting. Not only that, but they ain't even built to complete what I was expecting. It's not their job. I know I'm throwing y'all's marriage ideas out of the water. I can't expect because my expectations are in him. I can't watch. I'm literally placing on my spouse. When I have an expectation, I am placing a demand on my spouse that only the supernatural can provide. You with me right now? Do you understand then the picture or the position that you have put your partner, your spouse or whatever in by placing an expectation on them that only God can meet? You are literally asking them to be God in your life and then getting mad when they can't be. And so if we have conditions or clauses that create expectation guarantees disappointment. The problem with that is that everything in life changes. So you're going to get disappointed. Because your expectations are based on this moment. And things change. Now watch. Disappointment leads to division. Vision. Vision leads to divorce. Now watch. Let me show you where the division comes in. Is when the both of you are entering into a relationship with separate expectations. You have one vision for the marriage, and he has another. And they don't meet. And because I have division, instead of one vision, which is covenant love, which is I'm bound to law to love you and stand here and meet your need without expecting anything in return. When I can enter into covenant love and not have expectation, I can live happily ever after. But when I have division because of separate expectations, I'm guaranteed to be led to divorce. You with me? Yes. I think I'm just going to end it there because I don't know what else I don't even want to get into anything else. Listen, let's stand, man. Next week, I'm going to get into how your marriage relates to your purpose. And I'm probably going to throw you some curveballs in that too. You ain't going to like me. Because to me, the Bible teaches me that there's nothing more paramount than purpose. It's the whole reason you breathe. And when you bring somebody else into that, you have literally just muddied the waters. And so I encourage you to be here with us next week. Invite somebody, man. If you know some folks do you feel like this is helping you? Do you feel like this is helping you? Anybody? Invite somebody that you know it would help then. Invite somebody that you know it would help. We can't act on our own will, but on His. That's really the first understanding of love, is the surrendering of will. It's, God, I let go. I really can't even properly enter into my relationships with my business partners or ministry team or my wife or whatever it may be. I can't even enter into that and it be healthy if I haven't first surrendered my will for His will. And so I want to challenge you today that if you have never surrendered your will to His will, that this be the moment that happens.
You have been listening to the Rejuvenate Church broadcast. If you shared in today's service with us, visit us at www.rejuvenatechurch.com and send us a message. We would love to hear from you. Rejuvenate Church invites you to be our guest if you're in the upstate of South Carolina. We are located in Anderson, South Carolina, inside the Anderson Mall across from Books A Million. Our service times are Sundays at 10:45 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. For up-to-date information, visit our website or connect with us on social media. We are found on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Pastor Jason Wilson and Rejuvenate Church desire to bridge the gap that divides race, age, and economic status. We are transforming culture by engaging and shaping men and women through relationships and positive kingdom influences. Thank you for listening. We look forward to the opportunity to share with you again at Rejuvenate Church.